Ross Eisenburg. He's the Vice President for Energy and Resources Policy at the National Association of Manufacturers. Ross, great to have you with us.
Thanks so much for having me on this morning.
If we could be candid with each other, this Obama EPA is out of control. Just straight up. It's out of control. I don't know who these people are, but this is like, it's like a runaway train. They just held a pair of public hearings in Arlington, Texas, to accept public comments on what I call its crazy, misguided, overreaching attempt to further restrict ozone rules. Now, there's no evidence out there. In Virginia, if this thing were to go down in Virginia, Ross, it would cost the state, I mean, it's in the hundreds of millions of dollars. This is insanity. What's going on?
So, I hate to say it, but it's actually in the billions of dollars.
Billions.
Maybe like tens of billions of dollars.
Tens of billions.
With a B, and if this thing goes down in Virginia. EPA is a funny thing. On the one hand, why would anybody take a job like that unless they really feel like they were going to, wanted to help the environment? On the other hand, for the past 6 or 7 years, it's like they've just been punching us and their arm has never gotten tired, right? I mean, that's the real issue here, is it just, like you said, it just doesn't stop. And so, we in the manufacturing sector have complied with and really been subjected to billions and billions of dollars of new regulations in the environmental space over the past 7, 8, 10 years, and we're complying with it. We're trying our best to we're shifting R&D money to make better products and try to comply with as much as we can. But these have not come without a very, very, very significant cost. And so now, like you said, we're now staring right in the face of what will easily be the most expensive regulation of all time by like an order of magnitude. I mean, it's tremendously expensive, and we're just throwing our hands up in the air at this point. I mean, what this is, I mean, this latest one, and I say this latest one because it seems like every couple months we've got another problem here. But this latest one has to deal with ground level ozone, which it's smog basically. And it comes naturally. A lot of it happens naturally. Ozone happens naturally from fires and trees and things like that. It also happens from combustion, so from manufacturing, from driving, from burning fossil fuels. The thing with this is that we've been regulating this for a very long time. Most of the low-hanging fruit is gone, and quite frankly, that's why there's not as much smog. I mean, the air has generally improved. You're seeing a lot less smog. The air quality is getting significantly better. It's a solid 25% better over the past couple decades. And it's because of all the regulations and all the technologies that we've put into place already. And so we're now looking at something that on its own is going to be the most expensive regulation of all time. For Virginia, you're looking at as much as $46 billion in total gross state product loss from 2017 to 2040. The average household like mine, I live in Arlington, would spend about $1,000 less per year on things like food and clothing and things like that to comply with this regulation, which is just absurd. And the worst part about it is that a solid half of the reductions that would need to be done here come from what EPA calls unknown technologies. So they don't even know what we're going to have to do to get there. They just say we need to get there.
I mean, that is unbelievable.
Manufacturers, that's just impossible, right?
Ross, look, that is unbelievable. I mean, each household, $1,000. That's number one. I want everybody to think right now, if you're in Virginia and you're listening to my show, $1,000 out of your pocket gone that you got to spend for this ridiculous rule that they can't even figure out how to comply with it themselves. Just $1,000 out of your pocket. And then you think about the billions of dollars it's going to cost. Now, the other thing is going to cost jobs. I mean, everybody in the state right now looking for a raise, that's gone. I mean, all this stuff is gone. We're trying to get more money for education. That's gone. So, and the EPA themselves, as you just said, Ross, can't even figure out what technology they'll need for compliance anyway.
Yeah, I mean, then and if you really want to get to the ludicrous part of this, I mean, it's the level that they're looking at to set the standard at right now. The range they're looking at would put, I don't know, several dozen national parks into non-compliance with the ozone standard. Now, like I said, ozone's generated. The ozone they're trying to reduce is generated from industrial activity and fossil fuels and things like that. There's none of that in a national park, right? I mean, so when you wind up in a situation where Yellowstone Park, National Park, is out of compliance with the ozone rule, you have to maybe take a step back and say, okay, maybe we're doing this wrong. Maybe we need to take a different approach here and not just continually, like I say, continually punch when there might be a better way to do this.
Absolutely. We're with Ross Eisenburg. He's the Vice President for Energy and Resources Policy at the National Association of Manufacturers. Ross, can you share with our audience what was the genesis of what I'm calling this EPA ozone jihad?
So it is a legally required review that the EPA has to do every 5 years. And so I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Groundhog Day. It's the Bill Murray movie where basically he has to redo the same day every time and until he gets it right. And so that's kind of what we do here every 5 years. And so every 5 years the EPA is required to go in and say, okay, is the ozone standard sufficient right now? And every 5 years they say it's not, and they decide to move the sticks back, to a lower level. That was not a terrible thing maybe in 1990 when you had a lot of manufacturers and power plants and things like that really hadn't put in the technologies to get there. But today it's a really big problem. This every 5 year Groundhog Day situation puts us in sort of this never-ending quest to always improve and always put new technologies on. And because we're dealing with Washington and because we're dealing with the federal government, we're always faced, and we are right now, with a situation where they haven't even implemented the last standard, and we're now talking about a new standard. So there's actually guidance that actually tells manufacturers how to comply with this thing that hasn't even been released for the 2008 rule, and it's 2015.
Ross,
and we're talking about moving the chains.
Tell us about the impact on jobs in Virginia if this were to go through.
Absolutely. So if this were to go through, and we actually back in July we released what I think is probably the most comprehensive analysis of this regulation that's ever been done. The economists looked at what would happen if we went down to 60 parts per billion, because at the time EPA was looking at that range. Thankfully, they dropped it out of the range. But if they went down to 60 parts per billion, Virginia would actually drop about 36,000 jobs. They'd have 36,000 less jobs per year through 2040, simply because of this regulation. And it's really primarily because of the impact it would have on the manufacturing sector.
Unbelievable. Now, we're with Ross Eisenburg. He's Vice President for Energy and Resources Policy at the National Association of Manufacturers. Ross, on the other side of this spectrum, people are going to say, well, job loss, billions of dollars, economic loss, $1,000 a household loss. There's got to be some upside here, right? I mean, this is a governmental agency. Are we going to be healthier? We're going to breathe better air? Gas mileage now in our vehicles? Is the world going to turn, is everything just going to turn out all right? There'll be no more climate change. What's the upside?
So what EPA is banking on is improvements to the public health. I mean, that is how they justify a rule like this. We're still going through some of that data and trying to figure out exactly how that's shaking out. I mean, the Texas Department of Environmental Quality came and testified recently, and they made a pretty good point, which is we've been ratcheting down ozone. The ozone is thought to be it's thought to exacerbate existing asthmatics. And the Texas Department of Environmental Quality pointed out that asthma rates are still going up, and as ozone's going down. And so I think we need to spend some more time digging into that. At the same time, we're it's about the increment. Is the incremental gain necessarily worth the cost? And certainly we want to improve the health. Everybody wants clean air. Everybody wants clean water. Manufacturers first and foremost. At the same time, you have to balance the cost with the benefit. And so, is the benefit here really worth the squeeze? When we're talking about, nationally, $270 billion a year in lost economic progress. I can tell you for a fact that if you're in one of these counties that winds up out of compliance with the ozone standard, manufacturers just aren't going to build something there. They're just not going to. It's too hard. Typically, if you want to build something in a community, in a county that winds up out of attainment, you have to get offsets, which means you have to find somebody to shut down so that you can build your facility. And if you can find somewhere else where you don't have to do that, and you don't have to wait 2 years to put in new technologies and things like that, you'll just go somewhere else. And so whether it's somebody manufacturing steel or roofing tiles or food or anything like that, you're typically going to, in the analysis, you're just not going to want to go to somewhere that's out of compliance with this air quality standard. And they're looking at levels that will put most of Virginia out of compliance. So, This is why we're standing up right now. I mean, this is a very, very big deal to us. It's issue number one in the energy space for us. We take it extremely seriously, and that's why we're doing opportunities like this to just make sure that people are aware that this is going on and that they can do something about it.
Ross, tell our listeners in just plain speak, layman's terms, the top 3 ways in which these stringent ozone rules, if they do become law through the EPA or if they are adopted, how is it going to impact your day-to-day life in Virginia?
So it is going to raise the cost of energy, number one, anywhere from 15% on the electricity side to 32% on the fuel side. So you're going to feel it at the pump. You're going to feel it in your home energy costs, number one. Number two, things are going to get more expensive, particularly in the manufactured goods, just because what winds up happening is we have to then start reformulating our products, and it's more direct regulations on us, and so our products get more expensive. So
right.
Everything kind of gets more expensive. There's another side of it, which is this, vehicle miles traveled. So because so much of ozone comes from the vehicle sector, and it's such a difficult thing to capture, what winds up happening is, you wind up basically having to spend more to operate your car, sort of in general, which kind of goes to, the extra fuels, the more expensive controls that have to go on your car, all of this stuff, where, all put together. I mean, if it gets really bad, the only way to really do it is another one of those cash for clunkers type programs where
right.
you basically are forced to sort of turn your car over.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's how it hits the average consumer. It's generally costs that are passed through that make just about everything else you do more expensive.
There's somebody that knows a little bit something about creating jobs, and that's former Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Bill Bolling. He had an op-ed the other day in the Richmond Times-Dispatch. I think he called it EPA ozone rules could cause lasting damage to Virginia's economy. Ross, did you have a chance to read that? And if so, could you comment on it?
I did. He makes a lot of really excellent points. The one that really hits home the most is he raises that there's a brand new pulp and paper manufacturer in Chesterfield County that's creating thousands of jobs, and that something like that, in his view, would be a lot harder to do if Chesterfield County had these new ozone standards in place. And looking at the monitored values for Chesterfield County, he's 100% right. I mean, so if this happened after the ozone rules went into effect, I would be curious if Chesterfield would have actually gotten that facility. At the end of the day, these big projects, these big job-creating manufacturing projects, get a heck of a lot harder to do if you're a county that is out of compliance with this ozone standard. So couldn't agree with him more. He hits the nail right on the head. We are doing our best to try to talk with Governor McAuliffe, with the Virginia DEQ. At the end of the day, states are the ones that bear the burden here of complying with this rule and trying to figure out how to get there. And so, our goal is to try to get the state of Virginia to weigh in with EPA and weigh in with the White House and let them know that this is not going to fly.
Well, an opportunity to share this with the Governor McAuliffe, who's all about jobs in Virginia. He goes all over the world trying to get jobs in Virginia. Yourself or any of your colleagues, did he have a reaction?
So he's been pretty positive with us on this. I mean, he wants to achieve that balance between the environment and the economy, and he wants to create jobs, and he's been very clear about that. And he is concerned that regulations like these might be too much for the state to handle. What we would like him to do is communicate that to EPA. It's great that he says that to us. We would really like to see that communicated to the EPA. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are putting the standard in place, and so he's saying the right things to us. We hope that he'll take that next step and communicate that to Washington.
Well, like President Obama, he says he has a phone and a pen, so hopefully he'll pick that phone up and call the EPA.
That's what we're hoping, and communicate
that, no doubt. And I know that we've had our differences with the governor on a number of issues, but one thing we applaud his efforts for the initiatives he's had in trying to get economic activity in Virginia, get jobs in Virginia, get business moving in Virginia, and certainly this EPA ozone debacle. I mean, it's a jihadist effort to just basically shut the state's economy down. It's crazy, Hopefully the governor will see that and fire up that cell phone of his and get this thing out of here. Ross, thanks for being on the show. Any final word?
If you want to learn more, nam.org/ozone is the place to go. It's our website at the National Association of Manufacturers. Thanks so much for your time.
All right. I want to thank Ross Eisenburg for being with us, Vice President for Energy and Resources Policy at the National Association of Manufacturers.